so much money. The gold that we even have in Fort Knox wouldn't be able to still back all the dollars that the trillions upon trillions of dollars that are out there in space. Number two, these certificates eventually became paper currency accepted as payment every single way. People start saying, says, wait a minute, I don't have to walk around with no gold. I'm looking for these nice little round coins. I can just hand you a piece of paper because it's backed by something. And I know there's some value because, this payment is being accepted everywhere. And number three, trust is the foundation. Paper money worked because people trusted it could be exchanged for real value. So that's why even if you fast forward into the stagecoach era and Wells Fargo, that's how Wells Fargo began. They were responsible for attempting to get money from point A to point B before they became a bank. They were just money exchanges. They were just, okay, we're responsible for taking the gold from here to bring it over there. And eventually it started recognizing, like, wait a minute, other than this just being transmittable or the transmitters, what would happen if we started, building something that we are now part of the apparatus of maybe people may need to borrow money. Okay. And that's where one of the biggest areas of people who make a lot of money in the financial industry. It's all about lending money. That's what a bank does. That's why when you hear the thought pattern of about be like a bank, being like a bank is that you have the ability, even if you're lending out at a particular level, if you're getting back the payments with some interest, that means you've earned something. And the best case scenario is as you get that money back, you put it back into circulation to work. Maybe someone needs to buy a house. That's how you get mortgages. Somebody desires to buy a business. They lend out business loans. Someone may need a personal loan. Depending upon how much their name is worth, you can get X amount of dollars, and you have this amount of time frame to return that money back to us with some interest because we lent you the money at that time when you needed it. And if we go from a scriptural sense, it even tells you it's better to be the lender and not the borrower. Not saying that you don't have the ability to borrow, because you should not be walking around here saying, I don't do anything in debt. Debt is good if you use it properly. But we'll get into that probably towards the end of this conversation and definitely into next week. Debt is good if used properly. Be mindful. There's people out there who are billionaires, millionaires, trillionaires who have used debt financing on other people's money to get to where they got to go. All you have to do is just look up Byron Allen. That's just pure debt financing. You borrow money from here, you purchase an asset there, you start to see that you can sell some of the pieces, you start paying down that debt. All of a sudden they say, oh, you paid down some of your debt. Here's some more money that you have access to. Go buy some other stuff that you can be responsible for. That's what debt is good for. What happens, especially in Black and brown communities, that debt was presented to us, and it seems like we're off subject, but we're not because it's still dealing with money. Debt was presented to us just to be consumers. We're never meant to be consumers. We're meant to be creators. And that's why, as you can see, it was the rise of paper money was a Chinese thing. You gotta give the Chinese some credit. Can't sit here and say, oh, America did this. No, paper money started with the Chinese. Any questions before we move on? Dr. Cheryl, what's the title of this slide for me, please?
Banking creates modern commerce.
Amen. Banks introduce deposits, loans, credit, and checks, fundamentally changing how economies function. Money starts to move virtually. Money no longer needed to physically move from hand to hand. Transactions could happen across great distances. See, by having a check or you pull out that credit card, you are dealing in the whole infrastructure of the financial system. But it's always based on trust. Depending upon how great your name is and how you handle resources, handle finances, will show that it's so interesting that the people who may not necessarily need as much credit can have as much credit because they've proven that they can handle the commerce of what is happening in their hands. They've been able to, as that good part of Matthew expresses about the 5 talent, 3 talent, and 1 talent. If you're down in that 1 talent pool, that means your credit's jacked up. It means, what did you do with it? Did you bury it? You didn't multiply it because it's not about addition, it's always about multiplication. And so trust became the very foundation of the financial system. Without it, the entire structure collapses. So that's why when we're talking about this whole Clarity Act stuff, it's not that it's like how should I say, taking the point of being in everyone's wallet at another level. And even I don't agree with that. Because regardless if I'm into cryptocurrency or not, or if I'm into certain investments or not, that should be my business. And most individuals who are like that, the only reason why you would want that type of transparency because you would like the control. See, sometimes we have to look at the wording. Oh, it's the Clarity Act. It must be a great thing. Didn't say the whole thing was terrible, but there are some aspects that you can sit there and have some level of pause. Like, whoa, do I want the government to be able to say, oh, I can see that Dr. Clarke has $5,000 on this particular credit card that he has access to. Okay, he did something bad. You know what? We're going to limit his credit. And you're like, whoa, where did my money disappear to? Oh, we over here made a decision about your credit. No, it's too much power. That's being, even though idios means minding your own business, and that's from the Greek. But being in people's business too intently, that's a little bit more discouraging. So banking these days, regardless of most people, and not even that, let's keep it real. Most people don't even use checks no more. What's the purpose of a check? When you can jump on your computer, on your phone, and be like, okay, I need to move some money via Venmo, or send some money via Cash App. Whereas before, I was like, oh my God, I got to send you $50. Okay, let me go find the ATM. No, wait a minute. You got Cash App? Yeah. Check your Cash App. Did you receive it? Yes. And it could be almost as close as instantaneously. Even the other day, myself, and I think definitely Dr. Cheryl, she was looking for a check. She needed something. It's like they were asking for a check. And it's like, and it's so true. It's not that was a misnomer or something that was bad. It's like, who uses a check? Now, about 30, 40 years ago, checks were still way before debit cards were introduced. That's how you were able to utilize money in your account. You would walk around with your checkbook, and if you had the cash, especially if you were buying groceries back in the day, I know I'm dating some of us, but I remember those days where you see people walk into like a grocery store, they whip out their checkbook, and the cashier would have to take it and stick it in the cash register, and it would register or do what it did in the back of it to show that some sort of exchange was happening, and they had to wait for that check to clear. We have moved beyond that space and time. Things move real quickly. PayPal, everything else moves very, very quickly and in the spaces of time. Any thoughts by anyone before we move on about banking, modern banking, the whole commerce? We sending money instantaneously. Just think it, we can send it. Excellent. The timeline of money, the 5,000 plus years of evolution. As initially stated, started off with bartering. We figured out before the governments got involved, okay, I have one of this and you have one of that. What's the value? Is it worth 1 to 1? Is it worth 1 to 2? Is it worth 3 to 1? That's bartering. Commodity. Now we started moving into the space of saying, well, we need certain things. I see you have some oil over there. I have some fire. How can we work together? Or I have some food and you had some oil. Commodity base. And we saw how it moved towards coins, how we started to flow into the space of coins, of moving effectively, of utilizing coins. And then from coins, we moved into paper. And paper was powerful. powerful because not only that was the first standard that we was using some sort of metal or some sort of valuable object to back the value of the paper. And now into modern banking, where now these days, you have people who may even have like stuff like Chime. Chime is not really a physical bank; they're a network, and they tapped into some of the other networks, and because they're in the internet space, they're a bank who doesn't have a physical building, and there's plenty of those things out there. Same as a PayPal, same as other financial organizations that are out there. So you can't walk in and say, I'm gonna walk into Goldman Sachs. You won't find Goldman Sachs just like on every corner like a TD or a Chase. So from the first handshake trade to a tap on a smartphone, each era of money solved the problems of the one before it, building a system of ever greater trust, reach, and convenience. You see, I can remember there was a time before the debit card. I remember when the debit cards came out, that was like 91, 92. And that was a big uproar because people was like, wait a minute, I don't no longer need a check. Wait a minute, I can walk around with this card that the bank gives me that has a Visa or MasterCard sign on it. And the places that accept Visa or MasterCard will I can be taking money right out of my account without me writing a check. It blew certain people's minds. People were used to that passbook, going into their savings bank and sticking that book in there and watching the teller print all the stuff out. Yes, I'm dating some of y'all dollar savings bank people. And watch that thing print on their piece of paper. Those days are long gone. Long gone. But the system of utilizing money is still ever, ever present. Any thoughts? Excellent. So the reflection. Where we've been, money has never stayed the same. Every generation has experienced a new financial system, from shells to smartphones. Through our history, money experiences leaps in financial and technical change, which in turn transforms human society. We are currently living in such an evolutionary leap. Where we're going. Today, mobile payments and cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin are the newest chapter in this story. Although cryptocurrencies can be used for payments, they haven't fully replaced traditional government issued currencies yet. So, as a discussion question that I'm gonna utilize this as the takeaway, how do you think today's financial system will change over the next 20 years? I would say we're getting into the space now where everything's going to be more instantaneous. That we'll still have some level of card, but like as we move in slowly and slowly, and people are not really walking around with actual paper currency no more because everything can move a little bit even more quicker than paper currency. I wouldn't be surprised certain things start to get eliminated over the next 20 years. What about you, Miss Johnson? What do you see over the next 20 years?
I would have to concur with the caveat. How do we then include lower income, homeless people, people that are in remote areas? So now you're just disenfranchising a larger set of people. So there's going to have to be some sort of compromise to where the paper system will be greatly reduced, but not yet eliminated, because not everyone's up to technology, not everyone trusts technology, and not a lot of people have access to technology. So I think it's going to be a balancing act for a while, and I'm complete.
Interesting. Dr. Cheryl, what do you say?
Yeah, I would concur, but they're getting only reason why I know is because my daughter was working in social services and in the margins where they were getting public assistance and things of that nature, when it was going to the cash checking places to cash a check or whatever, they moved to a cashless way of doing it. And she noticed that some was weren't able to read the instructions, one. Secondly, they didn't have the ability to have a bank account. So looking at the digital currency and getting more and more less with the tangible, there is a learning curve and there is people in the margins that I believe that a lot of people are going to have to get informed in how to do certain things and having to imagine this world being in the way that it is and the way we're moving. There is a disconnect in some forms and fashion of people, and I'm not sure. Um, I'm unsure,
Mm.
and I do believe the platform is necessary to give the visibility about the financial state of first of all, our economy and our state of our nation and the education and the discipline and the fortitude that we're gonna have to have moving forward. And I'm complete.
Okay, I'm going to go to my namesake since he represents Gen Z and they're more of the digital, well, the alphas and the betas are the more digital natives. But Mr. Junior, what would you say in regards to how y'all move with dollars now and where do you think it's moving to from your generational standpoint? Let's see if he's near his phone. He's not on his other phone. Okay, we'll give him a second. Miss Gaskins, how's everything going with you? No, no, let me say it correctly. Dr. Gaskins. What would you say about, dollars and cents and any takeaway or reference in the question from tonight? So everyone gets an opportunity to have their voice in the matter. So we're not just hogging up the space.
Uh, hello, Dr. Clarke. David, stop. I don't have any questions at the moment. Mother, he's asking me. He's asking me. I said I don't have no question. Goodness gracious.
Any takeaways?
No, I don't have any takeaways.
Okay. Okay, no problem, no problem. Just wanted to make sure give
Well, I do. Well, I do want to. Okay, I know you talked about the different types of currencies. I noticed you didn't mention anything about gold and silver.
What are you talking about?
Well, gold and silver is mainly commodities these days. You will see it like if you have the opportunity to watch some of the financial networks that show daily processes of trading. Gold and silver have a very powerful still value because there are people who still save gold and get precious metal, what they consider precious metals. And the reason why they get precious metals is because if the value of that raises, they can use that as a tool to get more tangible paper cash. So sometimes they use it as a hedge, especially those who are the affluent class will really get into precious metals, look into, and you wonder why certain people want to buy a whole bunch of land because they're hoping that, all of a sudden, not only could they turn some of that land to farmland, but all of a sudden they find oil or certain resources underneath that land, which means that they own it. That's extra resources. That's commodities. So gold and silver, especially as we've been taking off those particular standards in the early 70s, are more or less now used as a hedge for those who are desiring to keep their wealth kind of protected. Hopefully that answers your question.
Yes, it does. Thank you, Dr. Clarke. Oh,
Nope.
my mom wanna express, Dr. Franklin wanna express her opinion.
Please, please.
Okay, this is what I want to add on to. Just like you were saying about the chess. Them chess was not a good idea because I had a couple of bouts. But when they came up with the ATM card, That was great to have because you couldn't bounce them like you could a check and then end up down there have to pay it back again, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So I thought when he was talking about that, when I think about when I first got my ATM card, man, I thought that was the greatest thing. It kept me out of trouble. You see what I'm saying?
Excellent. It's excellent. Yeah, those debit cards helped a bunch of people because now, as Dr. Franklin was alluding to, now those individuals that may have had the opportunity to say, "Oh, I didn't check," if you swipe that debit card and all of a sudden it was declined, you knew. It's like, wait a minute, okay, either I'm gonna have to put some of this stuff back, and now that eliminated me saying that, or sometimes they even saved up embarrassment of saying, that's the worst case scenario. I remember back in the day, and this goes back to '70s and '80s, where sometimes you bounce enough checks, boy, you go in that store and they put your bounce check up on behind them, boy, and people walk by like, who check is that? You don't see their name. You don't see that's your neighbor from down the street. They keep bouncing checks. It's like, oh, terrible, terrible, just embarrassing. So yes, everything continues to move from that space as technological prowess continues to happen. And thank you for your input.
So what?
You're very welcome. Mr. Sampson, Jay-Z of funeral home directors. What say you, young sir? What say you?
I say that we, the humans, are going to be the technology.
Mm.
We won't need our cell phone anymore to purchase things. We won't need any devices. We will need our eyes, our voice, and our fingerprints. And we will become the technology. There'll be a chip within us that will get us everything and everywhere we need. And that's what I see the future going.
Mm. Wow. Those alphas and betas, boy, I guess those are the ones that's going to be sitting there. Says, how'd you pay? Do a retinal scan. Oh, I see you have $2,000 in your account. Okay, we're about to debit $22.10 because, okay, based upon your retinal scan, it aligns with you being a part of the digital network. It's almost like the movie Minority Report. That's where everything started getting to that point of retinal scanning, whereas now everything was based upon your eyes.
Isn't Whole Foods have an identification process now?
I believe
Uh,
Whole Foods.
uh,
I know Amazon still has, and is still working out the kinks. But Amazon is the first one that definitely has. Or Demolition Man, as Nicole Johnson was saying. But I know Amazon has certain stores where you go in there, and regardless if you're a Prime member or not, you need to register because when you go in there, there's no cash register.
Right.
It's almost as if you walk in and if you pick up 3 or 4 items, that thing will scan. Even I noticed the other day here, ShopRite here by us, they have a particular cart now where if you put your cell phone, especially if you have your digital wallet, you put your cell phone in a particular slot on as you're pushing the cart. And as you put your items in the cart, is waiting for you to get near the cashier. You don't even have to go to the cashier, or as you get to self-checking, it will actually start to debit and give you a running total and just let you know, okay, are you complete? And then it'll automatically do everything there and send you a digital receipt and you can walk out the door. So
Exactly.
even the supermarkets are starting to catch up onto the technology where it's like, wait a minute, okay, we don't. Uniqlo has the same thing as the Japanese company. Oh, really? Remember Jason worked at Uniqlo for a season. Never knew that. So, and not even that, I know there are certain restaurants now, and I'm talking about high-end restaurants that are no longer taking cash. And even like there are times where me and Dr. Cheryl may go catch a meal at certain places now. They give you that little kiosk thing right there. The waitress or the waiter is not really coming to you with a paper bill, even though we experienced that last night. But I'm talking about usually there are a bunch of, especially large chains now. It's like, no, they're going to put they made the investment in the technology. You are at table 47. That waiter or the person who served you already inputted your information. All of a sudden, you hit that little button. All of a sudden, it pops up and says, "Yeah, yeah, you had the steak, and I had the shrimp, and just and the third. You had this amount of drinks. Okay, pay right here on this little kiosk." And even the tip. Okay, how much the tip you going to leave, and this and the third. And all of a sudden, it's like eliminating paper.
And don't play any of the games. They'll charge you $2.99 on that same kiosk machine.
Yeah. Correct. Correct. They want to make
But
they desire to make everything much more easier for you because that's part of this instantaneous, instant gratification life that we're living. But what you were about to say.
but getting back to the commodities, money is an illusion, in my opinion. Money is an illusion because I could buy in 1969 a vehicle for $5,000. And in 2026, that I don't know, 3,000 vehicles made, there's only 10 left. And now I can get $250,000 for that same $5,000 car. Why? Because it's an illusion. It's rare. You had people who told you that it's worth this based on auctions. Art is subjective. They tell you, oh, this is worth, $1 million. No, it's not. It's worth $5.59, and that's how much the canvas and the paint cost. But because of the illusion that the person gave it as value and that someone agreed, yeah, I really like that, and it's rare, I'm willing to pay this much for it. Oh, well, if he was willing to pay that much for it, I'm gonna try and get it from him, and I'm gonna pay more for it. And it's all a game. And when I really realized it was an illusion, when it would cost over $500,000 in materials to purchase a home in New York City, and that same wood, nails, electric cords, and everything would cost $150,000 in Georgia. The same wood, the same cables, the same nails, but because of the luxury of living in New York, we're going to get more for the same merchandise that you would get in a southern or Midwest state. But it's the same material. And that's why Temu is killing them, because they're selling these high quality things and revealing just how much they really cost, which is not much of anything. So money's an illusion. And it's also supply and demand. So if you make it rare enough and unique enough, then you get a sense of empowerment when you're one of the few to be blessed with something that's very rare. And that's why they chose gold and diamonds and things that are difficult to get. They could have said rocks, common rocks is what we're going to use for money. But everyone can get to a common rock. Everybody can't get to a piece of gold. Everyone can't get to a diamond. Everyone can't get to a sapphire or an opus or ruby. So because they're rare, someone decided to give it value. Long Island got robbed. The Indians got robbed for inferior materials, but it was rare to them. So the Caucasian man said, hey, I got some great skins for you. Give me all these acres for these beautiful, rare skins. They was like, yeah, we don't have those kind of animals here. Let me get those skins. And they gave away all that land. So it's all an illusion. I'm complete.
Yes, Miss Clarke. Go ahead.
Two things that Mr. Simpson mentioned about the value that's placed on items. A lot of times is status symbol too. If I can present myself of being able to purchase something at a particular price or at a particular cost, then it means I've arrived. And as he said, it is an illusion, in my opinion. And what he mentioned also about the chip, that's scriptural.
Mm,
That's the mark of the beast.
mm. So we're getting closer and closer towards that. Huh.
It is coming.
Mm. Very interesting. Excellent, excellent, excellent. Well, let's Gregory, or Mr. JR, are you around? See if we can get some a young perspective into this. Okay, I guess he's still not by his phone. Yes, Miss Johnson, I saw your hand was raised.
I didn't want us to forget Mr. Richards.
Oh, I don't see Mr. Rich. Wait a minute. They Mr. Richards, yes, Mr. Richards is here. How's everything, Mr. Richards? What's your thought on the conversation here tonight?
Well, it's very rich and it's also educational,
Mm,
in the sense that you learn as you go by. Because what I look at, when you look at your digital, let's say, your cards, credit cards,
hmm
you lost your number in a country, you could still use it if you don't have to push it in the machine. Uh,
mm,
if you lose your PIN number, you could continue using it until if they force you to put it like in a machine,
hmm
then there's where the trouble comes in. Yeah, I'm talking sometimes from experience that sometimes a family go through those type of things, and to get something like when in a foreign country, it's like they have to have everything notarized and down, to the bank. And most of the time, it's like you're going from pillar to post
mm,
because they never like say for instance are flexible with the new system that they introduced these banks here that you feel comfortable going to a bank. Nowadays, you don't want to go to a bank because it's like I'm gonna spend my whole day within a bank, whereby I could be outside, making some dollars. Because the main thing in an event is investment. Because once you can invest rightly and with the right people, because sometimes have a bunch of scammers they come across also. But it's to discern when you are among them and who they are. Because a person is known by the integrity and also they have to have a credibility. And I'm complete.
excellent. And one of the things that most people utilize banks nowadays for, especially when you get into that investment level or in that high net worth level, is that it's about how can you access those respective markets that if you have an idea, a good or a service that you're willing to put out into the marketplace, you can't just use all your money. Sometimes you're willing to borrow against your asset or against what you're building because you believe in it so much. And then after a while, when that thing hits, it's like Facebook. Facebook had to borrow a lot of money. When we look at some of the respective artificial intelligence companies like Anthropic or OpenAI, they're all getting prepared for their major IPOs, initial public offerings that'll happen in the fall. SpaceX made Elon Musk a trillionaire. And so that's all it is that you're accessing these markets for people who are willing to say, I'm willing to invest in you. And that's why I said too many times how they did black and brown people was a disservice, was that banking has always been around. It's just that, do you use it properly? Do you use it effectively? And if you use banking effectively, then even though you may be borrowing, you still can be ahead of the game because you borrowed because you have assets that are generating enough that's affording your lifestyle. And on top of that, is allowing you to still be in business. Whereas too many times, as I heard Ms. Clarke share about status symbols, and even as Mr. Sampson alluded to about the illusion, everything is based upon the illusion of based upon a need. See, like when we was in the presentation, bartering was about two people deciding, and we're gonna come to you, Mr. Sampson. It was about two people deciding, okay, this many chickens equals to this, or you have a piece of metal pan and it's worth maybe my camel. And then after a while, they started to recognize, even though bartering worked initially, but there was a lot of conflict because people can manipulate or attempt to, as human nature, humans being human. So when they started to recognize to make it more standardized and make it much more controlled and make it in a space where we can eliminate probably some of the possibilities of violence, okay, let's make it a standardized system based upon this, and you can exchange these many coins for this based upon the particular value that's being established. And it's true, everything does go back to trust. It's communication and pure trust, how you are trusting what it is that you're seeing. Yes, Mr. Sampson, the floor is yours.
Yes, I wanted to comment on your discussion reference the banking system and using banks correctly. Unfortunately, the banks weren't treating us correctly. So there was a lot of discriminatory practices where, lesser qualified persons in the right zip code were getting loans and we were not. So when there's a systemic problem in the banking system that is, discriminatory against certain people, it's hard to work the banking system correctly if you're not getting an even crack. But the playing field is rapidly getting level because of the knowledge that we now have that we didn't have 50, 60 years ago. I'm complete.
Excellent. That is so true. That is so true. And yeah, we can't forget about the fact that, yes, even going back to World War One, where, Harlem Hellfighters, and, we have all those great stories of individuals who fought to help free Europe from the initial stages of some level of imperialism over there. A Caucasian war. We're over there fighting, then come back here and treating us like substandard citizens, or that we were worse than animals, still thinking that we were 3/5. And another thing, and yes, it deals with commerce and money, because there are times where the slaves were insured. They were considered property. And you would sit there and be like, wait a minute, how could you enslave another human being? They were insurance policies on slaves. Whereas that's why I said this country still has a major reckoning. Because anytime you hear about, paying some level of reparations or some sort of restitution to the forefathers, to the families of those who were mishandled, when the Civil War ended, and even though the North won, the South still got paid for the slaves that went free. So you sit there and be like, oh, why are we focused on money? Why are we just talking about dollars and cents? Everything is about dollars and cents. To the point where they turned them from slaves into sharecropping. So now you're going to work the land, and you're going to get a piece of what it is that you worked this land for. And it's not going to be the full worth or the full value, because I'm allowing you to work my land, but you're no longer a slave. And sometimes people don't like to, or feel like, why we always go back to money? We have to go back to money. It's commerce. It's value. It's inherent value. It's the value that we've created as a trust. It's the value that we've allowed ourselves to be established to say, wait a minute, I'm willing to spend X amount of dollars for this particular thing that I desire. If I don't desire it, or if it's not a need, then I'm going to take my attention, which time is also money. I'm going to take my attention, I'm going to take everything else and bring it over here. That's how the social media companies were able to become billionaires, or the owners of these things, or the people who invested in this stuff. people's like, wait a minute, all I'm doing is looking at, what they're doing on this platform or that platform. You're giving them their time. That's money. And all of a sudden you see an advertisement pop up, and all of a sudden you decide to circulate some dollars over here, or you still worrying about what's going on in someone else's backyard. It's money. Everything still goes back to money. And so this was an excellent conversation today. Very spirited. Love all the viewpoints, because here at the Comeback Collective Circle, we're not sitting here trying to or attempting to be, one size fits all. We all have to have this one perspective. No, we grow by recognizing we have the ability to question. Don't take anything at face value, or just take anything just as it was written, but recognize the fact that how it was written and why it was written. And that's why I love, even, and as I bring this to a close, even when we exegete the word, we start to recognize, like, what was the time frame? What was the purpose? What was happening when this was established, or even what was written? And who wrote it? Because even to this day, they don't believe that Luke was the one who wrote Luke. But we're going to leave that maybe for a Bible study one day. But leave that alone for now. But right now, let's share the different ways that we can support the platform, as we appreciate all of you who are supporting the platform. And once again, the Comeback Collective Circle and always desires for you to be a part financially, because that helps us to express and expand the message. And the different ways to support, you can do it via Cash App, which is $ Gregory Clarke D Min. Or if you so choose, you can do it via Venmo, which is you drop the $ and it's Gregory Clarke D Min. And if you're choosing to do it via Zelle or PayPal, which we humbly will receive, you can use the same email address, esquire971@gmail.com. Now, as we go and close to this week, continue to be powerfully expressed, continue to motivate yourself from all the respective different areas that you get to be and get to be expressed through. Allow your dollars to make sense. Make the right choices. Keep your head up, not down. Don't move in a diminished manner. And recognize anything that you dream of, you can manifest it tangibly. Have a great week, and can't wait to see all of you next week for the next edition of the Comeback Conversations. Have an excellent week ahead.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night, all.
Night.
Good night. How are you doing? This is Dr. Gregory Clarke, and I hope you enjoyed this past video. Now, once again, I invite you to become a part of the Comeback Collective Circle on this wonderful time frame, and not only by enjoying the video, but going to get my book, Life in the Huddle. You can get this copy and get your copy today, right now, by going to the Amazon.com website and type in Life in the Huddle. This is a great book, not only for yourself, but it's a very autobiographical tome that I've written. And the reason why it's so important, you can connect with the Comeback Collective Circle. You can support this community by financial means. You can do it via Cash App at $ Gregory Clarke D Min, or you can go via Venmo to Gregory Clarke D Min. Or if you desire to do it via Zelle or PayPal, you can simply use the same email address, esquire971@gmail.com. I hope you enjoyed the journey. Can't wait for you to see you as a part of the circle as we grow the community. Have a great day.